Hi everyone, thank you for joining me here at 27th Street Bakery. We're on the other side, but this is like the beginning of our South LA walk. This is like the first part, and the second part will take place at another location. We'll let you know about that. But before we begin, I wanted to do a land acknowledgement. As always, we're currently on Tongva land, which is an unceded territory that is being occupied. Somewhat close to this location, more north, used to exist the biggest Tongva village called Yanga. The village and its residents were forced to move multiple times, and eventually the village was completely destroyed by the Los Angeles City Council. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge whose land and history we were standing on originally before we officially start the workshop of this tour here. And a little bit about me, my name is Jamie Choi. I'm the teaching artist intern here at DSTL Arts for this workshop series, and I'll be the person doing the walking tours for this one and then the next one next Saturday. And I've published a full chapbook called Disappearing from View in November of last year, 2024. And also, just a disclaimer, I'm not an expert by any means about like anything that I know. Pretty much like everything I know, I've learned through other experts who know more than me, right? So I'm just here to tell you about what I've learned basically through the walking tours. Through my research. And also shout outs to this massively underrated and well-researched small YouTuber called the South LA Recap, this person does a lot of historical research like videos, and they're very short and there's a lot of good information. So if you want to look into that YouTube channel, you can learn so much more than what you can learn here. There's like so many different things on there. So definitely check that place out because that channel helped me a lot also throughout for this workshop. So yeah, we're gonna start the walk, but mostly we're gonna stay here for the first one. So like to do like a short intro to this area, in the 1850s, many waves of Black Americans actually started moving to the west from the south. You know, like California was like a big draw for people coming from the south due to the deeply racist laws of like other like states, even though LA also was not great, as we might know. Black Americans were able to build a life like in this area in particular, starting from like the 1850s pretty much. And mostly this area was concentrated with Black Americans due to these things called the restrictive covenants, which disallowed people of color, like of any race really, to, besides white people, to own property that was originally owned by white people. So they genuinely did not have any choice in terms of like the housing, the choice of housing and like quote unquote more desirable areas were not like available to them. So yeah, that's why this area has its like rich history, but it is also defined by those like racist laws that existed. To begin, for the 27th Street Bakery, this is not a pop quiz or anything, but do you think the 1984 Summer Olympics in LA have anything to do with a historic bakery? That's been here since 1956. That's like a question I've had, like, you know, like kind of wanted to like think about because there is a history, there is a connection there, and I'll get into that. So this third generation family business starts all the way back when Harry and Sadie Patterson, a couple, moved to California from Shreveport, Louisiana, and they brought with them all of these family recipes from the South. And this area being a thriving hub for other Black Americans, many of whom also had recently moved from the South, it was like pretty much guaranteed to be a hit with a lot, like their recipes were really great. And the original pie location was called Mrs. Harry's Pies and Cakes. And the family's sweet potato pie recipe is their specialty. And it's made up of milk, eggs, butter, and sweet potato. But it's not just any sweet potato from Northern California. It's actually, they source their sweet potatoes from Louisiana. so that it retains the consistency, and it's like authentically their recipe. And they also include a secret mix of spices that go into the pie. So I don't know what that is, but you should definitely try it. It's not an advertisement, but I think it would be cool to try. After the Pattersons retired in the 1980s, Alberta Craven, their daughter, and Gregory Spann, their grandchild, they took over the bakery. And then the two of them renamed the business to 27th Street Bakery after the intersection here, the 27th Street. Regarding the Olympics, which I mentioned just like a little bit ago, at the same time when the Pattersons descendants were taking over the bakery, their granddaughter, who was working part-time at the bakery, was at the bakery all the time. She was actually preparing to go to the Olympics. Yeah, she was in track and field. Jeanette, this person's name is Jeanette Bolden Pickens, and yeah, she was the one being an athlete basically at the same time. And she is someone who, according to research, was someone who's been struggling with asthma all of her life actually. And she was quoted in an article saying, "One thing that my grandparents instilled in me was that if you wanted to achieve your goal, you have to put the work in." And she said, "I had to overcome some obstacles, but I didn't let them hold me back," is what she said. And she won a gold medal in the 4x100 meter relay in 1984. And after, she had a successful coaching career for decades, actually. She coached at UCLA, her alma mater, for the women's track team for nearly 2 decades. Then in 2006, Jeanette Bolden Pickens, became the U.S. women's head coach for the Beijing Summer Olympic Games in 2008. She is the first Olympic head coach with the title of Olympic gold medalist on their resume. So she was the first one to be an Olympic gold medalist and also an Olympic coach. She resumed coaching for another decade after that. And then in 2008, she took over for the bakery's ownership. And she had this to say about running the bakery. She said, "Coaching a team to an NCAA championship, that was tough. But the bakery during the holidays, there's no comparison." She laughed about this, but it sounds kind of intense, so so yeah, that's the 27th Street Bakery. It's very cool. It's been here for many, many years. If you want to take notes or take photos even of the place, grab a pie real quick. We can't wait for you, but if you order a pie, you can go ahead. But yeah, that's our first stop. Yeah, we can move on to the next if we would like, if we're ready. Okay, let's go. So this is our second stop, a place called Home here and over there. This is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 1993, just a year after the LA riots or uprising. For those who may not be aware, the LA riots or the 1992 LA uprising was a series of civil disturbances that occurred from April to May in 1992. This unrest directly was responding to the acquitting of 3 police officers in the LAPD after the arrest and beating of Rodney King. After the police brutality inflicted on King, a Korean shop owner, Sun Ja-do, shot and killed a 15-year-old black girl named Latasha Harlins. after accusing her of trying to steal orange juice. The shop owner was convicted of voluntary manslaughter and served no prison time due to the judge deciding that for some reason, like, just didn't give her prison time. Needless to say, tensions were really, really high in this area between Koreans and Black Americans. And a place called Home was essentially an oasis for South Central, particularly for gang-affected youth, as it says on their website. A place called Home says that the organization represents, and I quote, a safe place after school to get a snack, do homework, play with friends, and be with caring adults. Deborah Constance, the founder of a place called Home, cites her experience with students from Jefferson High School and transforming their experience by exposing the students to mentorship and other programs. They offer free programs containing lessons, like I said, mentorship, scholarships, and other assistance. And I don't know if I can include this, but Louise also used to work at a place called Home. So, yeah, very briefly. Yeah, what's that?
Fast worker.
Says he. Just like the hype man for everything. But yeah, this is a really cool organization. I thought it would be a really good stop to kind of like, it's like the community effort responding to like the things happening in the area. So that's really cool. Yeah. So we can just move on from this one too. Shout outs to the stanchion. It is tagged, but you can still read some parts. Shout outs to the stanchion. This area, yeah, they have the stanchion here, nice and not tagged.
Yeah.
Right now.
Most of the time.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So we are now at our third, fourth-ish, because we're going to talk about this location and the location across over there. But starting with the St. Patrick's Catholic Church. This church was established in 1903. So this was many years ago, serving a variety of immigrant communities over its long history. So starting with the Irish and German immigrants in the 20th century, early half of the 20th century, and then Black Americans in the 1920s, and then in 20s and 30s, then Mexican Americans in the 1950s, and now they're serving Central Americans. So this church has been like sort of a revolving door of like different immigrant communities to worship, basically. And unfortunately, though, like I think in 1980, like so many buildings, there was an earthquake that kind of toppled this location. Or actually, it was first like 1933 earthquake and then the 1971 earthquake, then kind of destroyed the entire structure. And when it was destroyed, people would actually just stand outside for several years, actually, in order to participate in mass. So even without the structure, people were still gathering here, specifically outside. And over time, with donations from different sources, such as parishes, giving individuals, foundations, they were able to rebuild a building beginning from 2005 to 2007. And as of today, about 1,000 members can worship under one roof. So it's a really big place. Just a little bit south of the Catholic Church, you'll be able to see, like over on that side, in that corner, that is host to the Masjid Bilal Islamic Center. This is Los Angeles' oldest Muslim congregation, established in the 1950s. Originally, this building was home to Elks Hall, which was a popular music venue in the area. It was also a dance hall and a community center. There was a ballroom there on the first floor, and it was able to hold more than 2,000 people. Some major artists who performed there were Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Cab Calloway, and Andy Blakeney. After buying the property for $180,000, the 40,000 square foot, 3-story brick building was immediately remodeled to accommodate the community's religious needs. The facility housed a prayer meeting area, 6 businesses, and a full-time school. A terrible earthquake, of course, we constantly bring up earthquakes in the history of like so many buildings, but it caused the building to become demolished in the 80s. And in November 2018, they were able to rebuild, and I believe they are still working on phase 2 of the building process, which would include a social center and a new house of Allah. So yeah, there's like 2 separate faith like buildings here that are very like significant. So I thought that was a good place to kind of stop and talk about both actually, a bit briefly. But yeah, feel free to take notes or take pictures. Yeah, both of them were not. They were like
Wrong God.
even if you, I mean, you were at the Boyle Heights first one, the Breed Street Shoal was also hit by the earthquake, which also was like, oh, that was really bad. We can't salvage this right now, and that was kind of like everybody's trying to rebuild because of those earthquakes. So it's
far we
very.
have 3 different religions.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's like bigger, taller buildings just like are affected more, so yeah, it makes sense. But it does suck, yeah. It's just always, earthquakes are a problem in LA, so it's like, I look at the history and they're always like, and there was an earthquake. And it sucked, basically. Yeah. I kind of had to redo that. So yeah, but we'll move on to the next one. We are stopped here at 4115 South Central Avenue. So this is the second to last stop in our journey, and we're in front of the former site of the Black Panther Party's LA headquarters, where the group's first chapter outside of Oakland was located. To be really honest, like, the Black Panther Party could really have a workshop all on its own, because there's just a lot of history regarding their political activity at this time. So, I'm gonna try to keep it specific to the LA location. The LA chapter of the Black Panther Party was formed by Alprentice or Bunchy Carter. Other members of the party included Geronimo Pratt, Elaine Brown, Raymond Masai Hewitt, and Erica and John Huggins. I don't know if people also had this experience growing up, but I always felt like the Black Panther Party was sort of negatively portrayed in the textbooks compared to the likes of Martin Luther King Jr. But they started and modeled lots of community-forward programs, which I definitely did not learn about in school. So I'll kind of just go into some of it briefly. They are responsible for over 60 free programs, including the Free Breakfast for Children program, which, just as the name suggests, focuses on providing free breakfast for children. And in 1968, the FBI director J. Edgar Hoover described the Black Panthers as, quote unquote, the greatest threat to internal security of the country. The FBI felt threatened by the Black Panthers, so they essentially teamed up with the police departments across the nation in order to repress and divide the Panthers. They used an illegal counterintelligence tactic, also known as COINTELPRO, to disparage and sabotage any political organizations that they basically didn't like or thought it was too subversive. For example, there was another Black nationalist organization called Organization US at the same time the Black Panthers were in LA. And they had a bit of rivalry with the Black Panther Party, which the FBI exploited. The FBI sent forged letters from each group in order to further divide the two groups. So they were sending fake letters to the other person, pretending to be the other organization members, to kind of make them fight each other, to be divided. And this culminated into a gun battle between the two parties on December 7, 1969, on the UCLA campus. John Huggins, one of the leaders, and Bunchy Carter, the captain of the LA chapter, were both killed during this confrontation. On December 8, 1969, the police attacked 3 Panther buildings in Los Angeles, including this local chapter headquarters on Central Avenue. The city's first SWAT team, so the city's first SWAT, was used actually to exchange fire with the Panthers here. This specific siege on the Black Panthers did not result in death, but it's important to note that the LA chapter was one of the most attacked chapters out of all of the Black Panther party chapters, with 10 members being killed by LAPD and other agents. So yes, that was, in short, the Black Panther Party in LA. Okay. Yeah. Casually using illegal tactics to take down orgs. That's America for you. So yeah, but let's keep it moving to the last stop. Shout outs to Stanchion. All right, so we are now in front of the final stop for us, the Dunbar Hotel. It was originally called Hotel Somerville, and it was built in 1928 by Dr. John Somerville and his wife Veda Somerville. The couple were the first and second Black graduates of USC School of Dentistry, and they were very much involved in the community as activists. And Vada Somerville is the first Black woman to obtain a license to practice dentistry in California. The couple co-founded the Los Angeles chapter of the NAACP, also known as the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. The Somervilles knew there was a keen need for an upscale hotel that would allow Black patrons, especially like rich Black patrons, to reside in like a nice hotel, because prominent Black artists actually performed in white hotels very often, but they did not allow them to stay at the white hotels they were performing at because of Jim Crow segregation laws. So they had to kind of perform there, but their lodgings were just far off in really like run-down places because they were not allowed to lodge in the place they were performing, entertaining these like white guests. And as expected, the opening of the Hotel Somerville was a success, but it was a short-lived one. So the stock market crashed in 1929, and the property had to be foreclosed. That's like the sort of the beginning of the Great Depression. And a local like entrepreneur, a very interesting guy named Lucius W. Lomax Sr., he purchased the hotel for $100,000. Then it was renamed the Dunbar Hotel, okay? And this renaming is actually in honor of a African-American poet, a novelist and short story writer named Paul Laurence Dunbar. And there was also just a time shortly after this purchase was made during the Great Depression where the hotel was turned into a hostel for the members of the Peace Mission movement of Father Divine. So that was like a thing. And then in the 1930s, it was sold again. So there was just a time when like members were just staying here for whatever reason. And then from the 1930s and 40s, this is when the Dunbar Hotel became, quote unquote, the hub of Los Angeles Black culture and the heart of Saturday night Los Angeles. The Dunbar, more than anything, is remembered for its role in the Central Avenue jazz scene. Musician Jack Kelson said of the hotel, "That's my favorite spot on Central Avenue. That spot in front of the Dunbar Hotel, because that to me was the hippest, most intimate, key spot of all the activity. That's where all the night people hung out, the sportsmen, the businessmen, the dancers, everybody in show business, people who were somebody stayed at the hotel." And interestingly enough, he said like everybody stays there, even white people would come in and like party at the Dunbar Hotel because it was just a cool place to be. And the Dunbar Hotel, however, eventually lost a lot of the patronage over time due to the fact that initially, I sort of mentioned this before, all these like racial covenants in the area kind of kept Black people in this area, but over time, the covenants were deemed unconstitutional by the courts. And so after that, people started kind of moving out of this area. So that concentration of like patrons who would normally go to the Dunbar more often started moving out. And so there was less and less activity over time. And so eventually the jazz scene kind of getting very slow. And then the Dunbar Hotel was then left vacant after the 1960s for over a decade. So it was kind of left abandoned for a really long time. But now it's a centerpiece for an effort to build affordable housing for seniors in this area as a part of Dunbar Village. The Dunbar Hotel provides 41 affordable apartments for seniors, as well as a beautiful gathering space for the community. And the floor space, so like the first floor is like available for like commercial leasing. So there is like a restaurant here now called Delicious at Dunbar. So yeah, that's like basically the brief sort of history of the Dunbar Hotel, which like had many iterations of like changing hands and things like that. And so yeah, that's the final stop we have for the Dunbar Hotel. And then we're gonna now transition to doing the writing portion. Yeah, we have to go to the mobile art lab for that. So we're gonna head over. If you wanna keep taking pictures, taking notes, feel free. Thank you for joining me here at Central Avenue. See you next time.